Today I'm going to read from my book, Downtown White Police, Chapter 6, titled, Here Comes the Cavalry. Before I read, anybody that doesn't want to hear profanity or have the vision of blood and violence, please exit this video now. This is real life, and this is what the inner city policing is like. I never sugarcoat anything. I tell it like it is, and this is how it was. Radio call. Amber 23. 23 is on Highland Avenue. 23, 1500 block of Harrell Avenue, 3rd floor, apartment 3B. Neighbor reports a loud domestic. Man assaulting a woman. Caller states the woman is pregnant. 23 responding. 10-4, 23. 23 is on scene. Climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor of the brick tenement building in the hollow, we could hear sounds of things breaking and a woman crying. We followed the sounds to the apartment door where the disturbance was occurring, and we announced our presence. Police, open the door! We heard a man's voice on the other side of the apartment door. Puta, you fucking whore! Who called the cops? I tried the door handle, and because it was locked, I looked at my partner, and just over his shoulder, I could see an old Hispanic woman leaning out of her apartment door in the hallway. She was looking at us with concern, probably for the young woman. She must have been the one who called the police. I nodded at her and crashed my size 12 boot into the door, knocking it open. I saw a very pregnant young woman in a flowered dress on the floor in the middle of a room that was strewn with broken dishes and spilled food. Her pretty face was disheveled and swollen with welts, and she was crying. The male standing over her held his belt in his hand, with which he had been beating her prior to our arrival. He was a medium-sized Hispanic and looked like one of the local gang members I had seen before. His arms and his hands were bloodied and slashed. Motherfucking cops, you come in my house like that? This bitch cut me. Arrest this fucking whore. The woman had defended herself during her boyfriend's attack, which I later found out was due to his accusation of her supposed infidelity, and he had beaten her with his belt in a jealous rage. In defense, she had picked up a steak knife in an attempt to fend them off. What else could a pregnant 20-year-old woman do? Hold on now, put the belt down, I said to him. Turning to the female on the floor, I asked her in a gentler voice, Ma'am, are you all right? So you fucking him too, eh? The man was enraged. Shut the fuck up, my partner yelled at him. Fuck you, man. I'm the one who's cut here. Arrest this bitch. He turned to the woman. Like I said, I'm pressing charges, puta. I told him, put the belt down. You're under arrest. The woman, who was still on the floor, backed away, knowing something bad was about to happen. In an instant, the male ran past us in our attempts to grab and subdue him, made it out the door, and headed down the stairs with the two of us in hot pursuit. I caught up to him on the 2nd floor landing, tackled him, and we both rolled down the stairs, now engaged in a hand-to-hand fight. The struggle continued to the front entrance of the building and out onto the sidewalk, where a crowd had already gathered due to the noise in the police car parked out in front, and more onlookers were coming. It was summertime and sweltering hot. The suspect was a member of a gang and was also a drug dealer who was feared by the neighborhood. But of course they would back him over the cops. Look what the cops did to Junior, man! One of the men in the crowd said to incite the others. They cut him, bro! The cops cut him! Now the crowd, which seemed to total about 25 people, encircled me and the suspect, who I was still trying to get under control. His arms were slick with blood from where his girlfriend had cut him, and my hands were also slippery with his blood, which made handcuffing him impossible at this point, because he was resisting furiously, emboldened by the crowd's support. My partner was at the entrance now, trying to keep control of the crowd, growing and increasingly hostile as it was encroaching closer and closer. Back up, cuff that motherfucker, Jim, we gotta get out of here. I'm trying. He's too bloody. I had him on the ground now, but I still couldn't get a grip. The crowd was pressing upon us, and seeing the blood and my physical efforts to handcuff my prisoner, they become enraged. Kill them fucking cops! Look at Junior! Fucking cops! Look what they did! My partner attempted to silence the loudmouth, but the instigator slithered away while 10 other black and Hispanic males in the crowd filled the gap between them. Now came the bottles and rocks. I was just starting to get control of the suspect and was finally able to get him cuffed. My partner was nowhere to be seen. With all this going on now, I was worried about him because he was nowhere in my line of vision. I stood up with the prisoner finally secured when a bottle came crashing down on his head but bounced off without breaking. I am sure the missile was intended for me. I heard thuds coming from our police cruiser where bricks were bouncing off of it. 23! Signal 32! Signal 32! What's your location, 23? Harrell Avenue. All available vehicles proceed to 1500 block of Harrell Avenue. Officers need assistance. At least 10 patrol cars responded, advising radio they were en route. Every cop wants to respond to these calls and to be there when an officer needs help. I have responded to many of these calls myself, and all you could think of is getting there in time and helping your brother officer. These are not called frequently, but only when absolutely necessary. I called a Signal 32, Jim. My partner, I noticed now, was at the driver's side of our car with the police radio mic in his hand. That's why they were throwing bricks at the cruiser. I saw him dodge one that came close to his head. Cocksuckers, stop that shit! The crowd was at a fever pitch now and tried to wrestle my prisoner away from me. This had been done before, not to me, but crowds on occasion had overwhelmed police in Bridgeport and in other cities and have freed their prisoners. I was not going to let them take this guy. They yanked and pulled. I felt something heavy hit my back. A brick. Patos maricon, you don't belong here, cop! I grew up in this neighborhood, went to school here, and at this point in my life, I still live just 5 blocks from this very location. Don't let the pigs take Junior! Don't let them take him! The instigator had returned while another brick just missed my face. They were closing in, and I knew this was already out of hand. I was making my way towards the car, but the wall of people on all sides of me was making it impossible. At times like this, you cannot, under any circumstances, show fear. If you do, you will be annihilated. I kept telling them to back the fuck up and was making progress, but it was slow progress. I was completely surrounded, and all I could see at that point was up, and every window in my field of vision was filled with onlookers, calmly watching the show. The wailing sirens heard in the distance began to crescendo, creating an unusual sound. 10 police cars converging on the same area will do that. At the ominous sound, the crowd silenced themselves for a moment. They knew that within a few seconds there would be many police cars on scene, and that the cops would be in no mood to play games. The sounds of the sirens became louder and closer. Then the strobe lights were visible, and then the green and white patrol cars appeared at every intersection. I cannot tell you what a good feeling that is. It has to be experienced to be understood. The crowd melted away. Some ran. Some lurked in the doorways. Police cars were now on scene, and cops were exiting their vehicles in a wave of blue. I was finally able to get to the patrol car with my prisoner. My partner looked over at me with a relieved smile and said, "Here comes the cavalry."